What's not to say about T-Rex? It hasn't been said about a gazillion times over. It's probably one of the best studied dinosaurs out there, which means there's a lot of reference material written and illustrated to refer to. And that's great news, because I was able to find this image of a T-Rex skull, a silhouetted T-Rex skull, fairly easily. And as you can see, I imported it, and it's going to be my base point, my template, basically. The creatinous, I think that's how you pronounce it. The brow ridges, basically. The brow ridges are something that, of course, you see them commonly in a lot of paleo art and as well as in other media. Jurassic Park's T-Rex brow ridges make it look like it's constantly pissed off. I wanted to try to avoid that. To be honest, I kind of think I didn't quite succeed in that, at least with the initial sketch. I also wanted to make sure that his eyes look more forward facing. That was definitely a big thing I wanted to convey with this image. By the way, that reference image is a T-Rex that I did earlier that I'm not too proud of, hence why I never bothered to post it or anything. Since the days of old, dinosaurs have been painted with a drab gray or green color, and I'm going to basically start off with the gray because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the colors for this thing just yet. At least at the time of painting, I wasn't sure. So as I was going through this, I realized that a lot of the more modern reconstructions depict T-Rex with surprisingly tiny eyes. I mean, I guess the actual eyeball was one of the largest of any terrestrial predator apparently, but the actual visible part of the eye was apparently quite small, and maybe a little bit higher on the head than how I did the initial sketch, so you can see I'm trying to correct that here. Also, I'm trying to have a bit of a happy medium between the toothy version of the T-Rex you see in most popular media, especially Jurassic Park, and some of the more modern reconstructions where the teeth aren't nearly as visible. You'll see me bring up a reference image that shows exactly that. It kind of makes it look almost like a Komodo dragon's mouth almost. The eyes still weren't looking forward facing enough, so had to go in and tweak it even further. Here I use a reference image from Prehistoric Planet, one of the most popular recent depictions of T-Rex. At this point, mostly just for lighting reference. And now for the part I've been dreading, the scales. As you could see, I wanted to use this particular depiction of T-Rex's scales because it shows I think a more diverse is the right word to use? I don't know. But the way the scales are there, you see very, very large ones on its mouth, and then there's a lot of small ones, so I wanted to mix it up a bit, as opposed to what you see with the Prehistoric Planet T-Rex, where the scales are a little different. Either way, this part I don't really know how to paint scales, and nor did I want to look for a different brush, mostly because I'm just being a cheapskate. And so I basically just painted white, or a very, 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 very light gray, and lowered the opacity, as you can see I'm doing here, only to copy that, move it over a little bit, and then use a curve layer to adjust it to black. And from there, tweak it a little bit later, adding more like highlights on there. And for some of it actually worked out pretty well. For others, bit hit and miss. But for this, it's fine. Side note, the reference images for this that I got are from concept artist RJ Palmer, and the 3D artist, the image that you actually see in the reference window, his name is Jacob. I don't want to even bother trying to pronounce the last name. Bardsey? Either way, I'll post the link to their art station so you get to see what I mean. Incredible work. It's tedious, but it's something Felder had to do. Adding highlights and shadows on the larger scales to make them stand out, since they are larger after all. Also, liberal use of copy pasting as well as the clone brush helps out quite a bit in filling the rest of the skin with scales. As long as you scale them down, the ones that are supposed to be tiny. They have found skin impressions of T-Rex, so large parts of his body had very small pebbly scales, so I wanted to make sure to convey those as well. As for the color, I had no clue what I was going to go with this. It kind of does look like I just straight up ripped off the Prehistoric Planet color scheme once you see the color I ultimately chose. I mean, here you can see it's green, but I settled for something that, like I said, looks pretty close to the Prehistoric Planet. It's not quite the same, but it's close, I fully admit. I've watched that show so many times. It feels impossible not to be influenced by it. One thing I will say I did a little different is that instead of giving it a light bone color look for its keratin ridges, I gave it a light red, like a bright reddish color. Some people have argued that because a lot of birds and presumably theropod dinosaurs were sexually dimorphic, that the males have probably had more color in them. And so I was like, well, might as well do that with the keratin on its skull. So yay for originality, I guess. Okay, not really. I totally got that idea from something else. The clone tool makes things so much easier when it comes to repeated textures and patterns. I'm definitely going to be taking full advantage of it more and more. T-Rex had teeth that are kind of like bananas, so I needed to make sure that they looked round. So I used the edge control brush and tried to make sure I use the blended side and not the hard edge side, which you could kind of see I accidentally sometimes do that and then have to blend or erase it and start over. But yes, it's very important to make sure his teeth or its teeth look round. So the debate about whether T-Rex still had feathers is ongoing, but a happy medium is to give it little filament still, like as vestigials, I guess, since they were perhaps an evolutionary vestige, or perhaps stuff that was left over as hatchlings. This part was actually pretty easy. Just use a smudge tool and just paint in a certain direction, in this case, outward. I also repeat the process here too, so that you can see some of the filaments are also in shadow. So full disclosure, backgrounds are my Achilles heel, the bane in my existence. So I thought I could get away with just smudging, having like a smudged, blurry background, but maybe I should add a tiny bit more detail to show that it's an actual forest. I definitely need more practice with the environments. Adding some rim lighting for the final touches around the teeth, which I almost forgot about. Using the edge control brush, of course, to make sure to keep the roundness of T-Rex's teeth. But yeah, that's basically a wrap. I don't really know how to finish this. Thank you.